love these old sunroofs on Mercedes, and they're great, especially when the sun's out like it is today and the sunroof is working properly. And I'm going to repeat if the sunroof is working properly. When you start having problems with these old sunroofs, they can be very frustrating. In fact, I've seen old Mercedes parked, you know, the sunroof's closed and they got duct tape around the edge of the sunroof to the body, and you just know that the guy's finally had it with his sunroof. It's leaking, it's not working, so he's closed it up and he's taped it off. In this video, I want to go through some of the problems that you'll find working on these old, I'm going to say, non-tilting sunroofs. These are the sunroofs that slide just straight back and forth that were produced from the early 60s right up and through about 1985. In this 240D, we have a manual sunroof. I'm going to get in and show you the operation of this, and we'll see how it's working. Manual sunroofs, like in this 240D, are simple in design, but they are not immune from problems. Let's see how this roof works. Now I'm going to reach up here and pull the lever down and turn it, and then I'll pull back on the roof. And I'm having to almost force it to get it back. And you can tell when I'm pulling it forward, it's not moving that easily either. So this sunroof is suffering from what many of them have, is poor lubrication in the tracks, and we'll get into that in more detail later. But you can look on the outside, you can see how the grease is kind of dried out in the tracks, and that's causing the roof to drag. And if you don't repair that, particularly on these old manual sunroofs, you can actually damage the mechanism. Now, let's move over onto the workbench and I'll show you some of the mechanisms and how they work in more detail. If you're fortunate to have a manual sunroof, sometimes just cleaning and re-lubing the tracks is all you'll need to do to get it to working properly. You'll be surprised to know there's a very special grease that needs to be used when you're lubing the tracks in any power or manual sunroof. And this grease is only available from Mercedes-Benz, but we sell it in the small tubes, which will allow you to have enough to do 1 or 2 sunroofs. By the way, if you want a surprise, just call up your local Mercedes dealer and ask them the cost of a tube of their special sunroof grease. Now, if you have an electric operated or power sunroof, you've got a whole bunch of other issues that you're going to have to deal with. You've got a cable which runs from the sunroof back to the motor, which is located in the trunk. And when this motor turns, it pulls on the cable and it opens up and closes the sunroof. If you've got a problem with the cable, your sunroof's not going to work. If you've got a problem with the motor, you're going to have issues. So it gets a lot more complicated when you're talking about power sunroofs. And I've written a manual that goes into great detail on how to troubleshoot, problems with slow-moving roofs or non-moving roofs. And I would recommend you get that manual and go through it. I'm not going to be able to cover every detail in this video. I'm just going to hit on the high spots of some things you'll want to look for if you're dealing with problems on your own sunroof. The number one issue that I see on these roofs is old grease in this sunroof cable. If this grease is original and it's 20 or 30 years old, it gets gooey. In fact, I've pulled cables out of these old cars, you swear it has molasses on the cable assembly. And it drags so hard in the tube that no matter what you do, you can't get your sunroof to work properly. You can lube the tracks, you can try to adjust your motor, but still you have that problem of the sunroof moving very slowly. If this is the case, just park your car in the hot sun for a while, and if suddenly the sunroof starts moving more smoothly, then you know the problem is going to be the old grease on your cable. Now this will require that you pull the cable completely out of the tube in the car. You can do this without, disassembling any upholstery. But once that cable's out, you're going to have to clean it, you're going to have to lubricate it with the proper grease, and you're going to have to pull a brush down through that tube to get all that old grease out, or you'll never get that cable to run smoothly. Our special sunroof repair kit has all the tools you will need to get this cable out and to re-grease it and get it back in properly. Once you're sure the cable's working okay, then you're going to have to look at the motor if you're having drive problems. These motors have a fiber gear that's located inside. This is a motor style that was used up to about 1980, and then this was the style used after 1980-81. But both of these drive mechanisms use a fiber gear. And if this fiber gear strips, You're going to hear some noise and movement back in the trunk, but you will not get the cable to move. So you'll need to look at the possibility that maybe your fiber gear is bad. And while we're at it, let's talk about cosmetics. What if your seals are bad? This is a real common problem on these old sunroofs. You know, the side seals get all deteriorated, the front and rear rubber seals fail. We have seal kits on our website that also come with complete instructions on how to put all 4 brand new seals in either your manual or your power sunroof. Next, I'm going to move in here and show you the mechanism on the slides that control this sunroof panel. If you have lubed your cable, you've adjusted and cleaned the motor, you know the gear's good, and you're still having problems with that sunroof not moving properly or not closing properly, it could be there's something wrong with the slide mechanisms. To get to the slide mechanisms, you will have to remove the sunroof panel completely from the car. This one is out of a 300 SD, and it looks like the slides are pretty well intact, but if you look closely here, look at the grease. It's almost like tar. And it has a felt pad here, and 2 plastic slides here. And they're all really gummed up with old grease. So even if you were to re-grease your tracks, you may still have a problem because there's no way to clean these without removing the panel completely from the car. That procedure is a little more complicated, but it's also covered in my sunroof repair manual. The thing you want to look for is, are these felt feet there? If they are missing, your sunroof will sit low and will not close properly. And we just found out about 3 weeks ago that these felt feet, we call them, are no longer being made. We can't even get them from the dealer anymore. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. We're considering maybe trying to find a source of these or outsource them ourselves. But right now, you can only get these felt feet used. So if yours are missing or damaged, you're going to have to start looking for them in a wrecking yard or something. Same with the plastic glides here. If they're broken or missing, then you'll have to find those used as well. Once you have the panel out, you completely clean the felt feet as well as the plastic slides, then you can go ahead and grease each one with that special sunroof grease and set the panel back in the car. You'll be amazed how smooth the panel can move when you have these cleaned and greased and the tracks cleaned and greased. One of the things I like to do is, before I ever hook up the cable or the motor on a power sunroof, is I like to install the sunroof, get it adjusted, and move it back and forth by hand. It should just slide easily back and forth. If it doesn't, you need to find the problem before you ever hook up the motor or the cable. So in conclusion, if you're having problems with your non-tilting power or manual sunroof, I recommend you visit my website. You can just put your chassis number and sunroof or sunroof repair in the search box, and it will take you right to all the products we sell that will help you repair your own roofs.